Hi everyone, and welcome to our lesson 1-1 on characteristics of entrepreneurship. This particular topic, we are going to be talking about the nature of entrepreneurship. So let's get into it. First off, you may have heard this quote that says, "If it ain't broke, don't fix it." Well, author Robert J. Cagle wrote a book that was called "If It Ain't Broke, Break It." And kind of that's what entrepreneurship is really all about. So as an entrepreneur, need to remember that you are a lifelong learner. And as an entrepreneur, you're also there to challenge the status quo and even break current solutions. Now, think for a minute about what each of these terms mean to you in your own life. Are you a lifelong learner? Do you challenge the status quo? And are you willing to break current solutions to do something better? So what does it mean to break current solutions? Well, really, it means to make it more effective and more efficient. I guess I reversed those, but that's okay. So it could mean making something better, making something faster, making something less expensive, making something more personalized, making something more effective and, and more efficient. Think about any products or services that you use in your everyday life that could be one of these following. Could it be any of those things? If you think it can, you maybe have the potential to be an entrepreneur to make it that way. And remember, an entrepreneur too, part of this is that if you have a business, that in order to keep growing and growing your customer base, you have to be able to do that. You have these characteristics, because if you don't, your competition certainly will. So what's the difference between an entrepreneur and entrepreneurship? Well, an entrepreneur is a person, and entrepreneurship is a process. It is a process that starts with solving a problem. I think I've said before, an entrepreneur is someone who solves a problem for a profit. So let's talk a little bit more about that. Again, an entrepreneur is someone who identifies an opportunity, and by creating a solution to a problem, maybe starts a business, they assume the risks and rewards of the venture and strives for and strives for constant improvement in an effort to grow the business and improve society. And it all really starts with these two things: taking the opportunity and solving a problem. Now, Brian Chesky, who is the co-founder of Airbnb, he said, if we tried to think of a good idea, we wouldn't have been able to think of a good idea. You just have to find a solution for a problem in your own life. Now, Airbnb was a disruptive innovator. As a disruptor, they took a sizable amount of hotel income and shifted it to personal homes and apartments. And Airbnb then collects a fee for providing the marketplace, acting as a broker for each transaction. The hotel industry felt, and even still today feels, the effects of Airbnb. Now remember, Airbnb is a disruptive innovator. But let's take a look at something now, let's take a look at something else. How about an LED light bulb? This is a disruptive innovation. There's a difference. LED light bulbs replace traditional incandescent lights. They may cost a little more, but they can last for up to 20 years. Plus, there are many environmental benefits, including that they use much less electricity than normal bulbs. LED lights are an example where an invention, in this case a disruptive innovation intended to change things, a lasting change for the better. One thing to try to remember is that being an entrepreneur is not only a career choice, it's usually more like a lifestyle. It may mean that you have large amounts of independence and flexibility. You're reporting to yourself. Entrepreneurs are wired into their business. They're passionate about their business, and they're always thinking about their business. Entrepreneurs are very often locked in to their business, okay, especially during the early stages and during the incubation period. Have to remember that entrepreneurism is a fluid and dynamic process. Things change all around you all the time. Could be consumer wants and needs, could be government regulations, could be competition, it could be economic issues that affect your business. This is part of that fluid and dynamic process because things change around you all the time. Entrepreneurs, you need to remember that you can't control everything. You need to be able to anticipate and to adapt. And as you're assuming the risk, to try to create value. And you've got to be able to manage scarce resources. Again, this is a changing and uncertain environment. Business is, so you have to be able to adapt in order to move forward. And of course, you always have to innovate in order to stay relevant and to grow. You may start with an initial idea, but then you have to continue searching for new ideas, new solutions, new ways, new methods, new processes. And you know what? I'll even give you a good example. Lego was a is a good example of an innovative company. Think about all the collaborations. They are not just simple toy bricks that you can combine to make things. Lego began partnering and having all these collaborations with things like Star Wars, Harry Potter, Marvel, buildings that from around the world, like the Taj Mahal or the Tower of London. They created these collaborations and hence have been able to continue to innovate and to grow. Now, as entrepreneurs, you are always looking for a profit potential. So what does this mean? So what does this mean, profit potential? It is sustaining a margin above your costs. It determines if you as an entrepreneur will take on the risks of starting a business. You look at your revenue, you look at your cost of goods sold or COGS, you look at your operating expenses. Do all those things equal a profit margin? Now notice you've got green for the revenue, COGS and operating expenses are red because they are negative. You subtract those from your revenue to end up with your profit. So what's your profit potential of a business that you might be looking at? Will it make money? Now, sometimes you may have an idea that may simply remain an idea or remain a hobby. Well, that's fine because many successful nonprofits come from solutions to problems. Remember again, an entrepreneur is someone who solves a problem for a profit. But you can even still earn money from nonprofits as well. One thing to always remember too is that entrepreneurs are motivated by purpose. Okay, it's their why, which we're going to talk about later. But take a look at this Venn diagram and think about this as your entrepreneurial purpose. You've got all these things here that kind of overlap. Okay, particularly your passion, your profession, your vocation, and your mission. Okay, your purpose is the intersection of all of those things. So again, take a look at this Venn diagram and remember that your purpose, your why, is the intersection of all of those different elements. All right, so that is our lesson 1-1 on the nature of entrepreneurship. So keep all these things in mind as we continue to move on and to learn.